ready to get started. We'll give people a few more minutes to join. Anyone who's already in here, we'll have a poll here shortly that we'll put forward. But thank you all very much for joining. Again, we'll give people a few more minutes, and then we'll get started. And this poll is obviously very topical on what we're talking about today. A lot of companies are working on getting their GenAI projects into production, and we've seen at DataRobot and as well as Google Cloud, a lot of companies are at different stages. So I'm very interested in seeing where you might be, kind of what you're thinking about, and maybe this can be a good way to kind of lead into your questions for the Q&A as we go forward. We see people with many apps in production. That is great. One scoping use cases. That's good to see too. All right, we'll give people one more minute as you continue to answer. Got more votes coming in. Got more votes. I see a lot of scoping use cases and just getting started. Most people are still in that area. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone who voted. See that most people are still just getting started, scoping use case and prototyping. And really that's what we've seen across companies. So that is good to see. And a lot of great content for you today. Thank you again for joining our webinar, How to Move Your GenAI Projects into Production. Quick housekeeping before we get started. We will have a Q&A at the end. You are able to ask questions as we go along, but we'll save those for the end to make sure we get to all this great content. If we don't get to your question at the end, we'll do our best to reach out, but we'll also give our contact information so you can ask us those questions and we can connect to make sure those get answered. Okay, and to start, so when we say how to move your GenAI projects to production, what do we mean? Well, really, what are the infrastructure considerations? What are the tools your users need to get those models in production? And really, how should you be thinking about getting those models in production? What should you be focusing on to make sure you're getting value out of your AI? And I will, there we go. And so, like I said, a lot to get to today. First, we'll have a quick introduction, talk about DataRobot, we'll talk about the speakers, and then kind of a step back where we are in general with generative AI. We'll talk about the Google Cloud and DataRobot joint solution. And then we'll have sections where we talk about specific tools and capabilities for Google Cloud and DataRobot and what they can provide you. We'll have a demo that shows a really cool use case for generative AI. We'll cover some more use cases, kind of wet the palette, if you will, for industry-specific use cases that can help you, think about what kind of use cases to start with and what kind are kind of the low-hanging fruit that may be fastest time to value. Then again, I said we'll have a Q&A at the end. And before I go any further, I want to make sure to welcome and thank Luke and Merlin for joining, two titans of generative AI. Luke Shulman, lead data scientist at DataRobot, and Merlin Yancey, lead solution consultant, partner engineer for Google Cloud. And I am Chris DeMontmont, product marketing manager that focuses on tech alliances in our channel team at DataRobot. Luke, Merlin, thank you very much for joining. I'm excited.
Of course.
All right, a little bit about DataRobot. We'll talk about Google Cloud in a little bit. I'm sure you've heard of Google Cloud. You may have heard about DataRobot. But just a quick note, we are the pure play AI lifecycle platform for generative and predictive AI. We've been around for a long time, since 2012, and we've always focused specifically on AI and really getting value out of AI. We have a large team of engineers, data scientists. with real industry-specific data science knowledge, strategic partnerships across the industry, Google Cloud, obviously NVIDIA, Databricks, Nutanix, and SAP, as well as others. And we have a long list of customers, Fortune 500, and other customers that trust us to be their solution for building AI and for governing and monitoring their entire AI stack. And so before we get to any more content and kind of what the capabilities are we'd like to share today, just kind of a retrospective of where we are in the generative AI cycle, if you will. It's been about 20 months since ChatGPT was announced, and a lot of companies have moved past that. Should I use GenAI? What can I do with GenAI phase, and moved much more into the, okay, how do I get value out of this? And how do I get these things into production? And that's primarily because even though so many different companies are focused on AI, 90% of companies have started their GenAI journey, only 13% have managed to move a solution into production. And as we talk to customers, as we talk to other companies, as we talk analysts and that kind of thing, we've noticed 4 real main categories of what issues companies are encountering when they try to get their projects into production. And one, and this one's a bit obvious, is technical skills. But really what we're talking about is not just technical skills in terms of using LLMs or knowing about LLMs and being able to, generate a response, but also all the personas, all the skill sets that are required to build the plumbing around it, to make sure it's safe and make sure that data is ready for use in GenAI and nothing's being exposed. So a lot of companies are noticing there's a lot of technical skills outside of even a data science team that's required. Culture is another big one. And this doesn't just mean companies that are resistant to generative AI or, they're slower to kind of adopt it. But within companies, there's teams and departments that are really at different stages. One team may have a great solution that they really like, and they're either close to deploying or already using it, while other teams aren't seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They're not getting the value out of AI, and they're not really investing in it. So a lot of companies are struggling with the adoption of the mindset, process, and tools across the organization. And a branch from that is obviously confidence, and not just confidence in the tools themselves, but confidence that when you build a tool and you put it out into production, that it'll be able to give users the answer they expect, and that you'll trust that there's no misuse of it, or it's not giving away information that you don't want it to. And finally, infrastructure. So a lot of companies are trying to piece together open source solutions. They're trying to go with multiple vendors and piece that together. But what they're finding is they really need a way to smooth the process of standing up the stack, really a way from procurement all the way to getting those first models in production. Make sure that they're doing it quickly and seamlessly. And so what we've discovered is what really is needed is a comprehensive solution to master any AI challenge, something that's flexible, that provides the foundation as well as all the tools you need to build and the tools within the same platform to operate and govern. So for infrastructure, like I mentioned, you can piece together open source tools, but you really need the scale and flexibility in a secure and sustainable way. You need to be able to empower all users to be able to build. So a streamlined pipeline means providing the deep code first tools to the data scientists and those that really need the deep capabilities, and no code optionality for not just those data scientists, but other users, like the data users that are getting the data ready or those that want to monitor and govern. You need a tool that can unify your landscape, help people work together, help people collaborate, and with full visibility and with full oversight. And finally, you need to be able to see everything. You need to see your AI stack, whether it's built in DataRobot, Google Cloud, built elsewhere, or if it's already existing. You need something that can keep complete control and visibility of the entire AI ecosystem. And that's what DataRobot and Google Cloud provide. We have the comprehensive solution for industry-specific AI challenges. So not just a platform that fits the top level use cases, the one we all hear, but provides all the tools for all the use cases. Uh, Google Cloud provides the infrastructure to help you build that foundation for your AI stack. It helps you get a handle on big data as well as all your data and get it ready for production with BigQuery, Data Fusion, and PubSub. Vertex AI provides the core framework for your AI models, and Model Garden has 130 plus models that you can choose from for any use case and in any industry. And DataRobot provides that streamlined AI pipeline that can help combine Google Cloud with external data sources, external models, into a very streamlined predictive and generative AI workflow that can help you build, operate, and govern your entire AI stack. And why are we here? What's the whole point of all this? Well, really, to put those apps into production, into existing investments that you have, like Looker, Data Studio, or AppSheet, or you can build completely custom apps with this one streamlined pipeline. And so putting it a little bit shorter, you can master any AI challenge with DataRobot and Google Cloud. You can fast track AI deployments with streamlined procurement on Google Cloud Marketplace. We have vetted connections and integrations, streamlined deployment with AI accelerators. Those are DataRobot out-of-the-box use cases that you can really put into your put in production quickly. And also Catalyst program, which is our white glove service that helps you identify those top use cases and then help you build a roadmap for getting those into production. You could unlock any AI use case. Like I mentioned in Model Garden, 130 plus models that you can bring all of them in and test them in LLM Playground, test them against each other, test different RAG orientations, different vector databases, like we'll see later, and really pick the best one for your use case. You can get a handle on your big data and get it all ready for use in GenAI and vector database and that kind of thing with BigQuery and DataRobot. And again, you can surface those apps in AppSheet and Looker. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, we help customers have confidence in their AI. So you can consolidate all of your AI into a single lifecycle platform, predictive and generative. You can monitor all your models on a single screen in DataRobot console. Again, if they're built in Google, DataRobot, or elsewhere. And we have new tools that help with real-time mitigation, like guardrails that help address problems in models before they affect it. Before you even deploy, you can put guardrails and plumbing around the model that makes it safe when it is deployed. So again, DataRobot and Google Cloud help you master any AI challenge. And with that, I will pass it off to Merlin to talk about Google Cloud Generative AI overview.
Thank you, Chris. I hope you hear me, right?
Yep, we do hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so good overview of the GenAI landscape. So now we will have a good focus in what Google Cloud provides, right? So next slide, please. Yeah, so we see these typically across three main pillars. The first one is the deep research and innovation at Google for many decades. Like you might have hear about the transformer, which has been at the forefront of what generative AI is today. That was invented by Google in 2017 and open source by Google in 2017, right? So this is something that has been work in progress at Google for many decades. And with the help of DeepMind and Google Research, we've been able to bring that together and create that transformer, which became the base of all the LLMs. Then you have the second, which is more the stack, right? It takes more than just a model, right, to create a GenAI solution. So we have put in place a deeply integrated stack portfolio that go from infrastructure, platform, APIs, all together, right, to really provide the end-to-end solution. And then third, Google AI is built on a foundation of enterprise readiness, which in fact means that we provide safety, security, encryption at the core of the GenAI so that you feel more confident, right? Whether it's a first party, third party, open source that you run on GCP, on Google Cloud, we have always, you apply always data governance or indemnity, security, and you run on a very reliable infrastructure on GCP plus the responsible AI. So it's pretty solid in terms of enterprise readiness. So next slide, please. So Gemini is kind of the next phase of what our next chapter, in fact. So the Gemini model is currently the most capable general model that we've ever built, thanks to the combined DeepMind and Google research that was merged in 2022. It's really the beginning of the journey. And this is for three main reasons that we have captured here, right? First, Gemini was built from the ground up as a multimodal. It's a multimodal solution, right? Meaning that it can generalize and understand operation across different type of modality, languages, images, audio, video, or code, right? So it's really built on top of that. Second, Gemini is highly optimized for different choices. So we've been talking about having maybe like small model, medium model, or large model. Ultra fast when you look for latency, best price performance, or if you are looking for high quality, right? So depending on these different settings, you may want to have different type of models, or maybe even token size, right? You have different type of token size that are optimized to fit into what you're trying to do to optimize for your use case. Number three, we have in Gemini a set of built-in capabilities to make the model more safer, right? Safe model. That the Gemini is probably the safer one that we have ever produced. And safety is definitely something that we want to highlight because of the fact that the model could be used to do so many different things. Okay, so next slide, please. On this slide, the key message that I want to highlight is mostly that we have one of the best in class infrastructure globally, leveraging TPU or GPU in terms of compute power workloads, an open and comprehensive AI stack like Transformer, JAX, XLA, you name it. And also in terms of deployment, right? We have a reliably secure models that can be run into different type of use case or metrics. Like you could think of leveraging as a service and having a workload that is adaptable, right? Based on your needs, right? So this is something that we launched recently. And then in number 4 here, we have the scale. Right? You can have availability of the infrastructure in so many different regions, right? In the US, in Europe, in EMEA, in Asia, almost everywhere in the world. And then, of course, sustainability, which is a key piece of what we are targeting for all our infrastructure in AI or not AI for the cloud. So next slide, please. So here we're talking about Vertex AI. So when you have Gemini is the model, right? Which has been built to really provide the high quality model for the use case. But on top of that, we have built a enterprise-ready platform, which in fact Vertex was already existing for decades, but it was more focusing on predictive AI. So we have combined Vertex AI to be able to cover now or to bring the capability of a platform with the generative AI. So we have the generative AI and predictive AI in the same platform, and everything enterprise ready because of the all the different capability that we provide inside the platform. So in Vertex AI, you will have the best model from the industry, will Model Garden. You will have an end-to-end platform with choice at every level. We don't just provide you a full stack, but we provide you choice so that you can decide to choose maybe the Model Garden and the Model Builder and decide to partner, to leverage a partner solution like DataRobot for all the other stacks, right? So it's a very easy to combine end-to-end platform. And then we have, of course, the development agent. You can build agent. And then, of course, all the safety, security, readiness that are provided around the model that are built into Vertex AI. Next slide, please. So the main piece that I wanted to highlight here is the Model Garden. So the Model Garden is probably one of the most flexible and open foundation model platform that you can see as a service today. We have more than 130, I think we moved to 150 plus industry model lately, including Google first party, partner, and open source models. We also provide predictive models like you see here, like what we call Google task-specific models. And then we also have been working on domain-specific models like SecLM and MedLM for medical and for security. And then as you see below, we have a lot of partners and open source models that are currently available, like Llama 3, Cloud, Anthropic, Mistral, and all these are available on the Model Garden and make it easy for users to deploy at the production level those models to build production applications. So next slide, please. One more thing that I wanted to add is that when you leverage Vertex AI Model Garden, today we have two of the main model that was launched very recently with a large context window, 1 million context window, pretty solid. I think it's the first one with 1 million context window. Two of those models, which is Gemini 1.1, 1.5 Flash, the fastest and most cost-efficient, targeted to certain type of use case, and then the Gemini 1.5 Pro with more reasoning capability. Still, both has 1 million context window, but we are targeting those two into different type of use case, and those are the two best improved performance model that we have today that anyone can use to really bring that their solution to life. The 1.5 Pro, 1.5 Flash is targeting GPT-3.5 Turbo, mostly low latency, and then the 1.5 Pro is more the GPT-4 type of scenario. So those are the two models that I think we suggest people to use today to be more compelling. I think that's about it for the Google Cloud offering. We don't want to dig deeper into this as we have a DataRobot that will take care of now building the upper stack of the solution, end-to-end solution that we want to bring into production. Luke, up to you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so just again, what I'm going to take us through a demonstration that uses components both from Google Cloud, Vertex AI, and the Agent Builder, and also on DataRobot to kind of walk through what this joint solution has to offer, specifically to help operate and govern generative AI applications at scale. I first met Merlin over a year ago, where we collaborated on using what is now MedLM, but at the time was MedPalm, on helping use that in a use case to help make triage decisions about patients in an emergency room context. And what the industry and our organizations we were doing this with told us is they said, we need to have absolute traceability for what this AI is recommending. And that type of governance and oversight over the application is exactly what DataRobot is here to provide. So we took the foundational model from the Vertex Model Garden, we were able to put it on an endpoint, but then wrap it in DataRobot so we could govern, monitor it, and maintain that control effectively. Chris, take us to the next slide. So on the build side, one of the things customers talk to us a lot about is optionality. As mentioned, there's over 130 foundational models in the model garden, so there's a lot to choose from. But on top of that, customers also want to try out fine-tuning models and maybe tailoring the outputs using various fine-tuning approaches or lower weights or whatever that might be. And that optionality is what DataRobot's here to provide. As I'll show in the demo, we're going to take multiple models from the model garden that could be fine-tuned or not fine-tuned, along with Gemini, the Gemini model itself, and we're going to compare their responses side by side, not just so that we can read them subjectively and understand how they work, but also with qualitative analysis from different metrics like rouge or correctness or faithfulness, etc. Chris, take us to the next slide. And I mentioned correctness and control. How do we operate models? When you're going to have 5, 10, 20, 25 generative AI use cases, where are you going to turn to see how often they're being used? And again, to get that traceability so that you can trace back to every single prompt and response. Because you never know what happens if an AI chatbot recommends a discount to a customer that you don't normally support. You want to be able to trace that all the way back from the response that was given to the customer to the documentation that the LLM was using to cite that response, all the way back through the chain. And that's exactly what DataRobot's here to help you do. And the last slide for today, I think, Chris, if I'm right, is again on governance, that transparency and oversight. And so we'll talk about how the model registry can take all these models from the model garden and wrap them in a great approval workflow and keep track of the documentation again, so you can have that traceability all the way through. Next slide, Chris. Perfect. Now, the other thing that I just want to introduce this terminology, because when you see it on the DataRobot app, it can be a little bit confusing, which is this idea of guards. Guards are, it's kind of a free term, but basically what we're talking about is models, both predictive and generative, but also evaluation metrics that look at both the prompt or the response and then can trigger different moderation rules. So for instance, if a customer has somewhat of an angry sentiment or is upset about a certain issue, you might want to take that chat out of the AI context and maybe have them address that with a customer service agent directly. So an example of a guard might be a sentiment classifier. And there's examples of pre-trained sentiment classifiers in the model garden, etc. Using DataRobot, we can actually take Gemini or one of the other model garden foundational models and wrap it in a sentiment analyzer, and through a simple set of UI controls, you can set different thresholds for when you want to trigger a moderation response and move on, maybe move that to a different type of conversation or a different type of interaction. Sentiment is just one example, but there are countless others where you might want a moderation rule. For instance, if there's personally identifiable data in the prompt and your employees are maybe leaking that potential PII into generative AI models, you might want to intervene to prevent that. Again, all sorts of different ways of approaching that, and I'll be demonstrating those as we walk through this. Chris, next up. Great. Yeah, so why don't we do that? So here, let me take over the screen, and we're gonna be demoing a research example. And let me just change this over so everybody can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so we're going to be demoing a research bot, and we really like this demo because it it's just very straightforward. Everyone knows exactly kind of what this position is, which is we've taken a kind of complicated policy subject, in this case, space policy and the International Space Station, and we've loaded it up with official reports of how the ISS has performed each year. And so we want to create a research bot that can help answer questions about International Space Station performance. Now, in addition to loading this grounding context into DataRobot, I've actually also loaded it into a Google Cloud Agent Builder data store. And this allows us to compare different techniques for adding this grounding context to our generative AI application. So one of the things that's really great about Google Cloud, as Merlin mentioned, is there are already task models that are able to extract information from PDFs really effectively, even when that PDF is filled with graphics like this one here. And so you can see we've loaded in the different highlights from the past 8 years of ISS performance, and we're going to use that as we interact with all the models that we're going to try. In addition to using an agent builder data store, I keep mentioning the model garden. It's worth actually bringing it up. So we're going to be using Gemini for a lot of our chats today, but we're also going to be using the Falcon open source model, which I've actually gone ahead and deployed using Vertex AI's one-click deploy. So now we have Gemini and we have Falcon, and we can actually interact with those together right in DataRobot. So here we're going into the DataRobot platform, and you can see I have the information about the ISS highlights. And what I'm doing is I'm actually going into what we call a playground, which is where you can compare different techniques for creating a generative AI experience. Now, as you can see, I'm actually looking at two chats side by side. One is using Google Gemini, together with that space research that we discussed. The other is actually using Falcon and is going to use the Agent Builder data store as well to help provide grounding context. And you can see I can actually review the responses side by side to see how they work. So here we can see these are really good actionable bullet points. That might be something we prefer in a bot like this. And as we go down, we can create even more. So here, let's do another sample question. What types of genetic research is the ISS supporting? And what you can see is our question is now being sent side by side to both groups for comparison. And now we can kind of judge what's the best response, what's working the best. Because LLM apps are a combination not just of the foundation model, but also of the parameters and of the different instructions that you give the system. And you can compare all those right here directly within the playground. So another thing that's great about the comparison that you may see is there are aggregated scores here. So Rouge 1 actually measures the response's fealty to its context grounding. But you can see I actually have a whole bunch of metrics here, from latency to faithfulness, even correctness. So I can understand how many correct answers each bot is given. How do we know about correctness? And that's another great feature of DataRobot when deployed on Google Cloud, is we actually make use of what are called evaluation data sets. So using subject matter experts, we've collected over 300 questions and answers as kind of a ground truth data set. And then we use qualitative metrics to compare how the LLMs respond versus how those subject matter experts wrote that response. And that creates that automated aggregation of correctness that you see here. And again, all of this is working on top of the amazing infrastructure of Google Cloud, where we have data stores from Agent Builder, we have endpoints hosted by Vertex AI, but we're wrapping it in these techniques that help us evaluate to know that these generative models really work. Chris or Bree, are there any questions that I'm missing? Because I can't see the chat while I'm demoing.
We will, there are a few in there. We can wait until we get to the end. Have a few more slides after this, so we can just wait a little bit longer.
Okay, great. So next up is, how do we operate and govern these models at scale? So I'm actually pulling up DataRobot deployments, and what you can see here is actually our Google Cloud Space Research Agent, and it's actually done predictions just recently. Here's the Falcon LLM, and those are at the top of my list because we were just making predictions on those. What you can see here is I literally have 5, 10, 12 different LLMs that are actually being monitored and governed right here on DataRobot. And not only can I see how frequently these are being used, but I mentioned that traceability, and this is something that is absolutely critical as you bring your applications to production. But I can go right here to the data exploration tab, and I can click on tracing, and I can see exactly how the prompt and response from the LLM application is working. Not only that, but I can see the outputs of evaluations and guards that we've inserted into the process. So this actually LLM, this is actually a resume analysis. It's meant to help with hiring. And so we have we have some evaluation guards here to make sure that it stays on topic, to make sure that it's providing answers that are faithful to the resume itself. And we can even add metrics that help track bias and fairness to make sure this AI, again, is responding with correctness and control. Another built-in part of DataRobot monitoring are these custom metrics. So here's actually another generative AI application about email offers going out to customers. And again, we can judge how these emails are being crafted, their sentiment, their reading complexity, how frequently the model is likely to maybe hallucinate. And then we can also collect user feedback so we know how these responses are being taken. And all of those here are combined with graphs and charts so we can monitor for any changes over time. Again, this is what's critical about having generative AI applications in production, is at any moment you may need to answer for how this app is performing and what kind of answers it's actually generating. And that's exactly what this DataRobot tool can allow you to do. So again, leveraging the infrastructure from Vertex AI and the agent builder, and just giving that an operating model and a governance model that makes it ready for even the most complex and most regulated applications, whether that be healthcare, financial services, or even consumer goods and consumer interactions. Chris, anything else that you think we should share or you think we should close out because we're getting up on time?
Let me, I will share my screen real quick one more time. And just to talk a little bit about amazing demo, by the way, that really is cool. And what it really showed is the ability to create very hyper-specific use cases, and that's really what we're seeing our customers and across the people looking to put these into production is really what they're looking for. They're not looking for a chat bot, full stop. They're looking for something with specific information trained on specific data that can really fill a very specific use case. We have several here, just to touch on a few. You could do a patient advocacy model trained on hospital-specific billing policy. You can do a fraud detection model, essentially that uses a predictive model as well as a generative AI model on top. And we actually have a demo that shows this. We're able to create a predictive dashboard that summarizes using generative AI, and also quality control. So imagine a field technician holding a tablet that's able to query specs for large equipment, or query steps for how to solve things, and kind of help troubleshoot along with a generative AI assistant. So a lot of different use cases across industries. And Keller Williams actually is one of our favorite customers, DataRobot and Google Cloud customer, who is using predictive and generative AI. So they build predictive models for things like properties likely to list, home valuation, and then they use a generative AI-powered learning hub to take all that information, take all that learning, and put it into a learning hub that serves over 187,000 agents across the country. And just real quick, another customer, 100-year-old investment bank, is using a research tool that synthesizes financial reports using both predictive and generative AI. And they were able to get this value to the internal customers very quickly using DataRobot.
Yeah, and one thing just on that financial reporting one, because that's a use case I'm relatively familiar with. This is a great use case for DataRobot and Google Cloud together. So for one thing, a lot of these research reports are in PDF. And as I mentioned, you can leverage Google Cloud's PDF extraction tools so that you get the data extracted in the most clear way possible. But the other one is they wanted to leverage financial reports in multiple languages. And so, again, you can leverage a task model to actually translate them on the fly as they go into generative AI applications so that you're giving research analysts the ability to see reports from all over the world, whereby before they might be limited to a certain language, or they might have to request that a report be interpreted and translated through some sort of a contractor. Again, this is another one. DataRobot's governance and monitoring can actually support multiple languages, even languages using entirely different character schemes like Japanese or Korean. So yeah, that's a really fun use case, one that really shows off the benefits of using both systems.
Absolutely. And a little pressed for time, long story short, all that put together, really what we're looking to do is move more AI projects, more AI apps in production, and start delivering that AI value. Do it more quickly and also do it safely and securely. And so that's what we have for you today. I do want to point out other great materials. This AI in action demo, Luke actually did with Google, and it's an absolutely incredible demo. The production value is off the chart, and the use case itself is extremely cool, using predictive and generative AI in that use case. We also have a data sheet that really kind of summarizes a lot of the main points that will be discussed today. Please check those both out. They were in the welcome email, so their links are there for you. But also, our emails are here. Please reach out if you have any questions. Again, if we don't get, we're a little pressed for time. If we don't get to all the questions, we're happy to reach out and answer those. And also, please feel free to reach out to us. And it does look like, let's see. So we have a few extra minutes, probably time for a few questions. And let's see, good ones came in. Well, here's a good one. So this is all great, but we're still figuring out how to use use cases and kind of stuck on how we can get value out of this. What are the first steps to even get started? And Luke, maybe I'll pitch that one over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be honest, the first step to get started is to give it a try, right? So on one side, take an Excel spreadsheet and just generate a list of questions that you want a generative AI app to answer, or a set of tasks that you'd want it to be performed, even tasks with code, and just write them all in an Excel, and then pick 20 of them and write the answer yourself. And now you have your first evaluation data set, and put that into DataRobot and immediately try to see if generative AI can meet or exceed your expectations on how to do that. And so honestly, the first step really is to get started. I think groups often overestimate that they have data challenges, they can't pull this data together, whatever it might be. It's actually, you have the data that you need. If you want to classify meetings that are important and not important, go ahead and extract the title of every meeting into a data set and just ask generative AI and just compare its decision with yours. And I think you'll be really surprised with how it performs. So yeah, honestly, the first step is to get started. Another one that we're seeing that is really common is to create across an organization, across many different departments and skill areas, create a tiger team of 5 or 6 people who can weigh in on whether this is trustworthy and can work or not. That's also been a critical first step, which is to just say, identify the problem, and then empower 5 or 6 people to work with generative AI models to see if they can really solve it. Because once you get that cross-department buy-in, that is going to really speed the way to production, to getting it into production. And that includes someone from the field, someone in management, often includes maybe someone from legal or compliance, but that's also a good first step. Just get them in a room and try it out.
Outstanding. And I see we're a little bit over time. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you very much for joining. We do have other questions. We will certainly reach out to get those answered. Luke, Merlin, thank you both very much for joining. This has been a lot of fun. And we will have this on demand. We may have had some issues earlier. If you had any video issues or anything like that, we will have that cleaned up, and this will be available on demand going forward. So thank you again, and talk to us soon.
Thank you.